Greetings and welcome to Flanagan's Ecologic. I am your host, Ted Flanagan, and today I've got Bill McKibben on the podcast. He is a reporter, an author, an activist, an environmentalist who I met in 1990, just after his book, The End of Nature Blew Us All Away. Bill has now written 21 books. He has 20 honorary degrees from colleges and universities. In 2014, he won the Right Livelihood Award, which is considered the alternative Nobel Peace Prize. He's been awarded the Gandhi Peace Award and many others. He's currently a Schumann Distinguished Scholar of Environmental Studies at Middlebury College. He's beaming in from the Green Mountain state of Vermont. Bill, welcome to the podcast.
Well, what a pleasure to be with you.
Thanks again for taking the time to do so. Let's jump right into your new book. Here Comes the Sun, a last chance for the climate and fresh chance for civilization. What are the main takeaway points?
Well, the biggest takeaway point is that something new is happening on the planet. About 3 or 4 years ago, we crossed some invisible line where it became cheaper to generate power from the sun and the wind than from setting coal and oil and gas on fire. And that was a really epochal moment. Humans have been burning stuff, the archaeologists tell us, for 700,000 years. It's kind of how we've made our way in the world.
Yeah.
But now we don't need to. And as we know, the cost of burning things is now really high. 9 million people a year die from breathing the combustion byproducts of fossil fuel. That's 1 death in 5. More to the point, our climate system is being disrupted in the most fundamental and absolutely terrifying ways. So it's very good news that we have an alternative all of a sudden, and very good news that it's being deployed in certain parts of the world with real eye-watering speed. The Chinese, as of last spring, were putting up about 3 gigawatts of solar panels a day, the rough equivalent of 3 big coal-fired power plants a day out of solar panels. So we're in a world where we could do big things fast, and the question is whether we will or not. And for Americans, the question is, will we let our insane president stop us from taking part in this revolution or not?
Yeah. I was listening to a Climate Forward podcast where you were interviewed in New York City, and you talked about if our president does get his way and retards our progress toward a clean energy future, we will basically become like a colonial Williamsburg where people from other countries will come and view this.
Come and gawk at how they used to do things back in the olden times. Yeah, that's the fate we want to avoid, especially since, and let me say this as a patriotic American, we invented this stuff. The first solar cell was 1954 at Edison, New Jersey, Bell Labs. The first industrial wind turbine on Earth was in the mountains of Vermont, about 30 miles south from where I'm talking to you today, in the 1940s. So the fact that we're just taking this stuff that we invented and handing it over to the country that's theoretically our main adversary in the world is a act of self-sabotage, I think, without parallel in the modern record.
It's so shocking. Of course, every day on the news, every morning on the news, I wonder what's next.
Yes, what next shocking thing will happen.
And it's always something, whether we're taking over a country or whatnot. But it's amazing to me. I had John Kreitz, who's the CEO of Rocky Mountain Institute, on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he said, "Ted, hey, I'm really optimistic because I'm looking at the rest of the world, and the rest of the world, like you said, China, 3 gigawatts a day. It's just a phenomenal number. You've talked about Pakistan, Indonesia. I've heard you're referring to. John said you start looking around the world, and the rest of the world is picking up on the clean energy revolution. And in the United States, we're wanting to line the oil companies' pockets. And then I wanted to get your read also on the AI, the whole boom of electrification, cars, buildings, but of course AI and Google and Amazon and all the other ones are trying to reinvest in nuclear power.
Yeah, look, I'm agnostic on how much we actually need to be building data
Yeah.
centers for AI. It's not clear to me that there's the demand to for this weird product that at the moment, seems to be half a device for producing naked pictures on the internet. I'm not
Yeah.
sure that there's quite the demand for it that's going to justify the building out the data center whole thing. But if you're going to build them, then the only way to do it and fast theoretically, again, to compete with the Chinese is supposed to be the priority. The only way to do that is to put up solar panels because you can do them in a matter of weeks. Uh, if you're counting on building a nuclear reactor to power your data center, I predict that the technology will have moved long past you long before you get your nuclear reactor up and running. In fact, one of the things that's so remarkable about sun and wind is the speed with which you can deploy it. Uh, Literally a matter of weeks to build big facilities. And for the people who have a deep love for nuclear power, it's always worth remembering that this
Yes.
is just a way to hook up to the largest nuclear reactor we know about, the one that's hanging up there at a nice, safe 93 million mile distance.
Absolutely. I'm in California, as you know, and we are even our state, as progressive we are with clean energy, is doing its level best to retard the development of solar power. And
I got to
even
say,
go ahead.
yeah, it's very strange to watch. Uh,
Yeah.
Gavin Newsom has, for some reason, decided that people putting solar on their roofs is a bad idea,
Yeah.
and it's sort of mind-boggling because California, in the years before he got there, did a lot of things to move down this right road and is yielding enormous benefit as a result. California is actually building a modern energy system, and probably one that wouldn't be that expensive if you weren't charging ratepayers for the cost of setting everything on fire every couple of years too. Um, it's to watch that, um, to watch Newsom pass the crown for renewable energy build out from California to Texas is quite remarkable.
And there's this narrative out here, even amongst progressive folks that I interact with all the time, that there's this cost shift that if a utility encourages a residential customer to put up solar and batteries at their home, which I think is an admirable thing to do in many ways, that there's a cost shift and that the burden is going to be placed on all the other ratepayers. But that's after externalizing all of the effects of climate change, right?
Yes, and I think that this is one of the places where, like, I've been watching Tom Steyer's campaign for governor. He seems to understand the deleterious role that the utilities are playing in the middle of all of this.
Mm.
Look, here's what could be happening in California. It's what's happening in Australia right now, a place at a Californian latitude with a Californian number of people that put up a large number of solar panels and has now reached the point where electricity for all Australians is going to be free beginning later this year for 3 hours every afternoon. Some enterprising
Mm.
California
Mm.
politician is going to seize on that idea too. And it won't be long, I think, before the Golden State is letting people charge their batteries for free in the middle of the afternoon when the sun is high.
Yeah. And, there is good news. Even in California, we have about 17 gigawatts of battery energy storage. That's all come online in the
Yes,
past
yes.
3 or 4
And there's
years.
plans for this new large solar farm now, down on land that's been ruined by ag land, ruined by salt. That'll be, I think, may turn out to be the largest single solar farm in the whole country when it's done.
Yeah. Yeah. It was amazing. My company, which specializes in solar, largely behind the meter homes and businesses and universities, we were working on a 3 gigawatt solar farm last year up near Fresno. Just a phenomenal thing.
That's
So
great.
there is some good news. And
Oh yeah.
I think you quoted Mark Jacobson recently, or you got some data from Mark, our friend. He's been on the podcast recently too, where we're using 40% less natural gas in California right
Mm.
now. So there is
Mark
some
Jacobson
progress.
is a great guru, and
Yeah.
Californians would do well to pay him honor. He's representing the Golden State well.
Yeah. Well, I love the title of your new book, and as you had said in another recording, "Here Comes the Sun," taken from George Harrison's fantastic song, and I think you said that that's the most downloaded of all Beatles
Yeah,
songs.
if you go to Spotify, I mean, it beats "Hey Jude" and "Let It Be" 2 to 1 every day, and the number of people listening. Partly because it's a beautiful, gentle, optimistic song in a very dark time. Partly because humans actually have a deep relationship with the sun,
Yeah.
um, and always have. I mean, we don't know how prehistoric people thought because, being prehistoric, they failed to write it down. But
Mm.
all the monuments and shrines and things they built, like Stonehenge, well, thousands more, line up with the solstice or the equinox. The minute that humans started writing mythologies, job number one was to explain how this thing rose over here in the morning,
Mm.
set over here in the afternoon, and got back over there the next morning. So there's lots of great stories about giant emus swallowing the sun and vomiting it up every morning, and on and on and on.
Mm.
Our connection with our local star is obviously pretty deep. It gives us light and warmth, and via photosynthesis, our food. And it seems now highly appropriate that it's willing to give us all the power we could ever need, whether we catch that power on photovoltaic panels or take advantage of the sun indirect, differentially heating the planet and thus creating the winds that turn those majestic turbines.
Yeah. And nobody's writing music about coal plants, or at least
The number of really great songs about fracking is pretty limited.
very limited. You mentioned also recently that 2023 really was I don't know, a monumental year. Renewables are cheaper, solar's cheaper, the cheapest source of capacity, the fastest growing source of capacity, and at the very same time, it's hotter than ever, right?
Mhm. The climate, I mean, this is what makes this such a drama and a painful one.
Yeah.
Um, if we had, if we didn't have a pressing reason to move fast, then we wouldn't, we could take this, at a leisurely pace, and we'd wake up 40 years from now and we'd run the world on sun and wind just based on economics. But if it takes us 40 years to get there, it's going to be a broken planet we run on sun and wind. We're
Mm.
doing extraordinary damage now. As you know, I wrote the first book about all of this 40 years ago almost now. And all the things that we said were going to happen back then are now happening, plus a lot of other worse things that we didn't even quite figure out back then.
Mm.
The jet stream and the Gulf Stream are flickering and faltering and getting bent out of shape. The most core systems of the earth are under assault from a rising temperature. So we would be very well advised to move quickly here.
Yeah. And this fresh chance that you have in the subtitle of your book, um, you see this as a potentially unifying force for civilization as we know it, right? Just like the moonshot was, in a way, for Americans, a
Yep.
unifying force back in the 60s.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about that.
It's a great opportunity if we chose it to have a group project to work on as a planet,
Yeah.
um, beginning with bringing power to the 700 million humans who don't have any at the moment, most of them in Africa. And to their credit, in one way or another, China is kind of getting along with this project at the moment. We're obviously not. It goes deeper than that, though. Uh, um, one of the things that I came to realize as I was writing the book is that a, a world that relies on fossil fuel means that it relies on a relatively small number of places where that fossil fuel is concentrated.
Yeah.
And the people who own or run those places therefore end up with way too much power and wealth. The king of Saudi Arabia, Vladimir Putin. In America, the biggest oil and gas barons have been the Koch brothers, who used their winnings to degrade our democracy. Um, I mean, think about how the history of the world for the last 100 years would have been different if oil had been of trivial value in that time. The number of wars we would have avoided. Think of
Hmm.
the insane spectacle that America is making itself at the moment by invading Venezuela without even any rhetoric about democracy or human rights. It's just, we want your oil and we're coming to get it. That
Yeah.
kind of world we don't have to live in anymore, because sun and wind are available to everyone everywhere. For all our propensity at battle, it'll be hard for humans to gin up a war over sunshine, I think.
That's right. Right. Let's talk about Third Act. You
Mm.
founded 350, what, I don't know how many years ago. What was that, 10 or 15
Almost
years
20
ago?
years ago now. Yeah.
Almost 20
20.
now. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And now what, we're at about 430 parts per million in the
Yes,
atmosphere,
indeed.
something like
Hmm.
that. So
Yes.
350 continues on doing lots of
Yes.
work in 188 countries?
Yes. We say we've organized protests in every country on earth except North Korea. So um, we've done what we set out to do in a lot of ways. And now, after all that organizing, um, I since I'm old myself now, I decided it was high time to organize other older people around these questions, both of protecting our climate and our democracy. So we
Hmm.
started Third Act about 4 years ago. We've got about 110,000 Americans engaged now, very strong working groups across the country doing remarkable work. Um, it's a it's it's some of the most powerful organizing I've ever gotten to do, in part because, well, I mean, older people have time and connections and resources, but they also have a connection to the past. That is, they understand that America doesn't have to be the ugly, evil way that it is right now, because they've spent most of their lives living through in a very different America, and they understand that change is possible because they've seen and made it happen. If you're in your third
Hmm.
act now, you were in your first act during this period of great social, cultural,
Right.
political change and liberation in the 60s and 70s. So you know that it's not impossible.
Yeah.
You know that we got the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act and all the things that the Trump administration is wiping out around us at the moment. We're not going to take that sitting down. We're going to fight back, and we are. So we hope, tell your grandparents about us at thirdact.org.
Yes. Yes. And I love you're very out front about it. This is the old and bold movement, a movement of old and bold people, and they're the elders, right? Like you said, they've got the wisdom, they've got that perspective. Um, but now, is Third Act very much aligned? I mean, certainly is aligned, but with 350, is 350 the younger crowd, and Third Act is
Probably
the older crowd?
in certain ways that's probably true, and the 350, the 350 chapters around America are doing great work all over the place, um, and sometimes they're the same people too. But older people bring a particular witness, and among other things, politicians listen to older people quite attentively because
Hmm.
they know that they all vote. There's no known way to stop old people from voting. And so it's a group with particular clout that we've really enjoyed starting to mobilize.
Right. And Third Act is, like you said a minute ago, is not just about climate, it's also about protecting our democracy. Is that right?
Democracy. That's right. In part because we can't defend the climate, as we're finding out, in a authoritarian country run by oil companies, which is what we're currently talking about. But in
Mhm.
part because, we don't want to live on an overheated planet, and we don't want to live in a fascist nation either. And the scenes around the country right now are scenes that Americans have never witnessed in their own country before.
Right.
Masked government thugs brandishing revolvers or handguns as they, pull people out of their cars, execute them in the middle of the street. It's craziness.
And what is when it comes to the ICE protests? regarding ICE and the death, the murder of Renee Good. What is the charge? Just to get out in the streets and
Yeah.
make ourselves heard and loud and clear?
Yes, yes, in part. And, so we helped organize with people all over the country, thousands of vigils for the nights after her execution. Um, but,
Mhm.
obviously, the work to be done in 2026 is to get people out to vote in the midterms. So that's one of the things that Third Act is working very hard on, voter registration. But while we're doing that, there's also lots and lots of work to be done at the state and local level on issues around both democracy and climate. We're running this big Simplify Solar campaign across America because Americans pay
Yeah,
3 times as much as Europeans or Australians to get a solar system put on their roof. That's craziness. And it's mostly down to excess bureaucracy that we don't need. So if we can cut through that red tape, we can change the economics. We're running this big campaign behind something about, what the Europeans call balcony solar,
yeah,
what we're calling plug-in solar. Um, it's the simplest of all the solar systems. You just get buy a solar panel with a plug on the back that sticks directly into your wall, no electrician needed. Um, and millions and millions and millions of apartment dwellers, particularly in Europe, have done this over the last 3 years. It's illegal everywhere in America except Utah, which passed the enabling legislation in March on the grounds that if it's good enough for Stuttgart, it should be good enough for Salt Lake City. Um, but now we have legislation in at least a dozen state houses to change that. Uh, in the most minor act of civil disobedience possible, I installed my balcony solar rig yesterday here in Vermont. We already have a lot of rooftop solar. Our house is like a museum of solar panels for many iterations over the last quarter century. But the
mhm.
newest is this uh, little balcony solar rig that just plugs straight into the wall. And it's quite remarkable to watch it at work. And it's not going to save the world by itself, but it's an excellent gateway drug for people
Yeah,
to introduce them to renewable energy. And for apartment dwellers, it often takes care of a lot of their power needs. So
right.
we're very hopeful about getting this spread across the country fast.
Yeah, I remember when I was working at Rocky Mountain Institute back in the 80s, late 80s, we hooked up the first solar system in the Roaring Fork Valley, interconnect with Holy Cross Energy. And of course, the big concern was that we were backfeeding electrons into the grid. And if there was an outage, that the linemen would go out there and they would potentially be exposed to backfed. Is that
That's
being
been
addressed at all with balcony,
Yes,
or is it just such a
yes,
small
it's
quantity?
all yes, yes, and yes. It's these things have been solved by now. There are, as I say, many millions of these systems across Europe now,
Yeah.
and so yeah, people have solved the technical difficulties. The political difficulties are harder because if
Mm,
you're an oil company, you understand that every solar panel that goes up reduces the ultimate demand for the gas and oil and coal that you want to sell. And in our corrupt political system in this country, they were able to, well, the president, while a candidate, told the oil industry quite openly that if they gave him $1 billion in donations, he'd give them anything they wanted. They ponied up closer to $500 million, but that was enough. And now he's shutting down wind farms off the coast of New England, banning solar panels on federal land, on and on and on. They've gotten their money's worth, and the rest of us have to battle back a little bit, or else America really is going to be that laughing stock that we were talking about before.
yeah. So would Third Act be out there advocating for balcony solar?
Oh, we're advocating hard. We've got working groups in almost every state in the country, and that's one of the things they're hard at work on. Advocating and winning. We're going to pass these laws in a lot of states in the next few months.
And I think the beauty of it is that you're self-consuming the power. You're not having to worry about the net energy metering aspect of it for the
Mhm.
most part, right? That's
Mhm.
that's where solar has been really retarded here in California in the past few years. As you know, we've gone from NEM 1.0 to 2.0 to now net billing, which basically
Mhm.
slashes the export credit that's been so important for all the school districts that I consult for, where when the kids are
Yeah.
not there, we're sending power back to the grid, and that's helping to
Yep. No,
amortize the cost. So it's a
Gavin Newsom
nice
is
solution.
behaving in befuddling ways, it must be said.
Yes, well, it's got to be related to money, right? um,
Money or presidential ambition or something, but I hope he understands
yeah,
where the future is headed. California could be the real pace setter for
yeah,
America, leading us in the right direction. And I think if it was, it would be an excellent political argument for him.
yeah, absolutely. I want to talk a little bit about your activism. Where do you think you get your energy for your activism? Is it pent up? You sit there writing these books, and you go, I gotta, I gotta get
I
out on the
did
streets.
at some point I began to understand. I mean, I'm a writer first and foremost, but
Right.
I began to understand that it was possible to win the argument and still lose the fight. Arguments are about fact and reason and data. You've got to win the argument, but fights are about money and power. And you've got to win that too. If you don't have billions of dollars like the Exxons and Chevrons of the world,
Hmm.
then you have to rely on the only other source of power, which is people, and build movements. And so that's what we've done and will continue to do. Um, and it's often difficult work and you lose some of the time, but you win some of the time too. In fact, I'm always impressed by the number of times that when you fight, you win. So, I mean, and we on any kind of counts, like Los Angeles, where you are, has now managed to ban new oil wells within the city limits. That was a long, hard fight, longer and harder than it should have been, really. But
Hmm.
it was waged by great activists there in California with the help from other people around the country. And it's an example of the kind of thing we can get done.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Sunday campaign.
Mm.
Is Sunday an annual event? I've had Dennis Hayes on this podcast. We've
Yes,
talked a lot about Earth Day, which should be every day, but is Sunday an annual event now?
I think Sunday will be an annual event, except that I think 2026 is going to be the exception to that. Everybody is so laser focused on making sure that the midterm elections work um, that I think that's where we've decided to put our energy for this year, with a strong sense that we're coming back to this big day of action to celebrate and spread renewable energy in 2027. And that this time it'll be not just 500 events across America, it will be thousands of events around the world.
And has it been 500 events across
That's what
America?
it was in September on the first one. Yeah, it was a beautiful, beautiful day. People really stood up all over the country, and we have great images of it and people who want to see the beautiful artwork and things that went with it. I encourage you to go to
Hmm.
sunday.earth. In fact, you can leave behind a drawing with the excellent tool that we have there, and part of this global gallery of thousands of images of the sun that really will move you, I think.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And in terms of the midterms, I was just at a party the other night, and I just sort of corralled everybody to talk about what to do about the midterms. And of course, you've said, a couple times, get out and vote. I mean, that's
Well,
fundamentally.
get out and vote, but get out and organize. So if you happen to be over the age of 60, join us at Third Act. We're very good at deploying people from dead blue areas, where it's not an issue, to ways that they can make a big impact in the rest of the country, where their volunteer hours are badly needed. So drop by and we will put you to work.
Very good, very good. Middlebury. I had
Mm.
lots of friends that went to Middlebury. I went to UVM, as you know. And you're a distinguished scholar there. Does that mean that some students have the opportunity to work with you?
Yes, I teach classes whenever I can, and Middlebury is a magical place with, it's one of the most rural schools in the country, sort of poised between the mountains and the farm fields of the Champlain Valley and then Lake Champlain. So it's a remarkable place for kids who like the out of doors as well as that can deal with sort of academic rigor. And I really love working with them. It was with 7 Middlebury undergraduates that I founded 350.org those years ago. And I continue to love being a part of that community.
And what do you teach there?
I've taught so many different things. I've taught a big survey course from time to time on global warming. I've taught magazine writing. I've taught the history of social movements. And I've taught stories from the Bible, which is great fun to teach because these kids are brilliant. They know everything about, they can do calculus standing on their heads, and they learn Chinese and on and on. But they know very, 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 very little about the Bible. So it's great fun to sort of go over the stories that do form the kind of backdrop of Western civilization with them.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What a great opportunity it would be to have a class with you. I know you love backpacking. I think you love cross-country skiing. You're an outdoorsman.
Yes.
And I take it that's really how you maintain balance in your
Indeed
work,
it is.
in your life, right?
Indeed it is. If I couldn't get outdoors for an hour every day, I think I would have gone crazy long ago. I will say that it was a mistake to completely fall in love at an early age with cross-country skiing, because it's possible that there's no activity on Earth more directly threatened by climate change.
Yeah.
We have a lot of warm rainstorms in January now in New England, and each one of them is a painful episode for those of us who want to be out gliding across the surface of the planet when winter gives us some remission from friction. But all the more reason to keep fighting, I guess.
Yeah. And what are the other activities? Did I get it right? Is backpacking still in your?
I like to backpack, and I like to bicycle, and just anything that gets me out into the world is for me a great pleasure.
Yeah. Well, it's been how fantastic. What a great pleasure for me to be able to interview you today. Thanks so much for.
Ted, I loved it. And many, many thanks for all your good work. And I'll look forward to the next time down the road.
Okay, Bill. Take care. That's it. Thanks for listening to Flanagan's Ecologic. We'll see you next time.